Do snakes have asses? Because if they do, this bullpen's ass got kicked tonight. The Diamondbacks definitely had a bad night on the mound against the San Francisco Giants. We have more on tonight's loss. And of course, we have our one and only Jesse Friedman joining us. Don't go anywhere. We're starting in 30 seconds. No skis tonight. No skis for this pitching staff. Welcome in, though, to all of you. Great to see you guys here. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX Diamondback Show right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. I got my guy, Kevin Thomas, occasionally known as Large Intimate on the ones and twos, and we will be joined here momentarily by the one and only Thunderstick, Jesse Friedman. Of course, this show is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365 and Game Time. Make sure to download that Bet365 app today and use our code of PHNX365 when you sign up. If you do, you get some bonus bets over there at Bet365. Also over at Game Time, you can use our code of PHNX. When you sign up, you'll get $20 off your first order. Diamondbacks lose tonight by a score of 10-6. And we have the guy to come in and break it down, especially what went wrong with this pitching staff. One and only Thunderstick Jesse Friedman here from Snakes territory. Jesse, great to have you here. Wish it was once again under better circumstances. I think we were doing the math on this, and I'm not sure if you've appeared on this post-game show yet after a win, or is that right? Is that...
Yeah, I think my official title around here, Derek, is actually Dbacks fan therapist. So I'm only allowed to be called in after losses.
It's
It
perfect.
would only be fitting. So
We need this. We need you to talk us down from a ledge, because you know me, I'm very reactionary. I'm ready to boot several members of this bullpen right off of this team already, Jesse. But we are going to calmly talk about it thanks to therapist Dr. Friedman here with us tonight. The Diamondbacks do drop to 22-21 on the season. They are now 3-3 in this 13-game stretch where they are facing off against National League West opponents for the first time. Split the series with the Dodgers, and now they've split the first two games of this series with the Giants, 1-1 each. The Diamondbacks are 11-9 so far on the road this season. But this one, Jesse, really came down to the pitching staff. The offense made a valiant attempt. They gave this team an early lead. They also fought back and added some runs later in the game. But Brandon Pfaadt did not have a good night tonight on the mound. He had a 3-0 lead before he threw his first pitch, and he just never really seemed comfortable after that first inning.
Well, any good therapist, Derek, will tell you that making progress starts with being real about the problem. And the Diamondbacks have themselves a bit of a pitching problem.
They do.
This is no secret at this point. They entered today with a bullpen ERA of, I believe, 5.02, and or right around that range, right around 5. And that unit gave up 6 runs in this game. Juan Morillo obviously had a rough night. Joe Mantiply had a rough night as well. But it also, it really did start with Brandon Pfaadt. His first 2 pitches tonight, Derek, kind of, I don't want to, I would never judge a starting pitcher solely off of how their first 2 pitches look. Like sometimes we do see guys, yank a fastball or something, and then they look totally fine. But Brandon Pfaadt's very first pitch today was a 91.5 mile per hour fastball that was about a foot inside against Mike Yastrzemski. And then his next pitch was around the same velo mark and about a foot outside. Both of those pitches about 2 miles per hour lower than what we usually see from Brandon Pfaadt's fastball, and obviously just were not at all well located. And that just kind of set the tone for his entire outing, which just looked really out of sync. As you put it earlier, he just never really looked comfortable out there on the mound. And to his credit, he did kind of find a way to limit damage a little bit. Certainly not in that second inning where he gave up the grand slam, but he managed to keep the D-backs in the game. They were only down 4-3 when he exited, but then the bullpen kind of took it from there, and we're talking about a game where the Diamondbacks allowed 10 runs.
More importantly, though, Jesse, it was the fact that once Brandon Pfaadt left, the way that this game was managed from that point, and like understandably so, 4 innings. He was already at 95 pitches. There was no, letting him go any longer at that point. He was having a bad outing, and he'd already kind of reached that maximum that they wanted to allow him to go. But it's that point. It's the fact that we have, again, the pitchers that Torrey has to turn to today is Juan Morillo, Kendall Graveman, who came out and did his job, made his, am I wrong? That was his debut, right? Like, came
It
out,
was.
had a great night in his debut. Kevin Ginkel does what Kevin Ginkel normally does. Looked good tonight, despite his ERA being at 12.71 still. But it was Joe Mantiply and Juan Morillo, and the fact that these guys really did not give the Diamondbacks a chance to come back. They didn't give them a chance to get into this one. Quite frankly, we want to blame. I know a lot of fans are screaming about Joe Mantiply, and we are going to get to Joe Mantiply. But to be fair, if Joe Mantiply would have been perfect, the Diamondbacks still end up losing this game by a score of 7-6 because Morillo comes out and his inning of work gives up 3 earned runs, walks 1, gives up 3 hits. He really was ineffective, and despite the fact that he throws 100 miles per hour, it really doesn't seem like he's fooling any batters with his stuff.
I think you're starting to see maybe why Juan Murillo was someone who was available to the Diamondbacks, because when they first brought him in and he looked so outstanding, it was like, how did the Diamondbacks just pick up a guy, throws 99 miles per hour with
Right.
really good life and this wipeout slider, and he's throwing strikes? Like, how was he just freely available to them? But I think he's still kind of learning to pitch a little bit. He's still learning to really harness that stuff. And I don't think the pitch that went for a home run was a terrible pitch necessarily. It was a slider that was reasonably well located, but he was falling behind in some counts. He didn't look particularly sharp overall. Wound up needing to throw 27 pitches to get out of that inning, and that's kind of been a trend for him lately, where he's had some longer innings and just not been able to really maximize the excellent stuff that he has.
Well, we kind of glossed over it, but Brandon Pfaadt did give the Diamondbacks 4 innings tonight, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. If the bullpen is able to come in and do their job and hold this game, then and that's honestly the big difference here in this series, right? I believe Jack Summers brought it up in a tweet, but these are literally the best bullpen in baseball versus one of the worst bullpens, and that showed up tonight because the Diamondbacks were able to do some damage against the Giants' very good bullpen. Unfortunately, their bullpen didn't do their job at all and didn't allow this team again a chance to win. Maybe it's different if it's closer, right? It's a 7-6 game, or at least it's within arm's reach at one point, especially after Corbin hits that home run. Things might be different. Maybe this game gets played out. Maybe Joe Mantiply doesn't come in. Who knows how things go, right? But Mantiply tonight, his outing was a disaster. Murillo's outing was a disaster. But really, the talk is, and I guess, Jesse, I know we should probably save the electricity for this, but I do have to kick on the generator and power up the Circle K strikeout meter. It deserves better, but if we fire it up, we got 3 strikeouts tonight for Brandon Pfaadt. And again, probably it not an outing that deserves the strikeout meter to be bothered. The strikeout meter didn't need to be warmed up and turned on for that, but that's what we do around here. We did have the pitch chart here for Brandon Pfaadt, and I did notice some things, Jesse. I don't know if you picked up on some of this stuff, but his fastball, not really able to keep it up in the zone. It was right there in the middle or low in the zone. You also have his sweeper, and I believe his sinker. Neither one of those were really close at times to some of these batters. And again, this is it's weird because the way that this chart is at times, especially in a good outing, can look very much like this, but typically you kind of see the fastballs up higher in the zone. There were a lot of fastballs low in the zone for Brandon Pfaadt.
Yeah, I had exactly the same thought. Brandon Pfaadt, in order to be effective, he does need to be able to use his four seamer up in the zone to get swing and miss. I think one of those pitches up in the zone, just kind of right at the top, was a swing and miss to Matt Chapman at one point during the game, but that was the only one. At least in that portion of the zone, and that's a really important area for him to be effective in. And he threw plenty of strikes with his fastball in a sense. I mean, his zone percentage on that pitch was 65. So 65% of his four seamers were in the zone, which is fine. But he didn't get a single chase on his four seam fastball all night. 0% chase rate on the four seam fastball. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier, where if he's able to throw that four seamer just a little bit above the zone to where it can
Right.
actually entice hitters to swing at it, that's a really important pitch for him. Instead, his the fastballs that weren't in the zone were, way off the plate outside, way off the plate inside, the kind of pitches that are going to be pretty easy takes for Giants hitters.
Well, the big complaint, obviously, in the chat, Jesse, as you could predict, is Joe Mantiply's outing, which is equally as bad. Like both guys were as bad. There's no splitting hairs, but the problem here is that Mantiply has been bad all season. He gets sent down to Reno. He gets recalled. You're hoping to see something out of him. He did pitch well at times in Reno, believe it or not, but he's also a crafty veteran pitching against AAA guys and knows how to throw breaking stuff. So probably kind of had an advantage there against a lot of batters he faced. But his outing was a disaster tonight. And again, there in the eighth inning, he gives up 4 hits, 3 earned runs. He gives up a big home run there late. And it just really felt like at this point, the Diamondbacks, like that was it. I mean, even though that they mustered up a couple of runs, you had a big home run there from Josh Naylor that did kind of feel like Chris Paul hitting the 3-pointer when the Suns were down by 42. But yeah, I mean, Jung Hoo Lee's home run, which was electric on I believe it was Korean Heritage Night there at the ballpark in San Francisco. Saw a lot of guys. What were they dressed up like that you and Bert agreed on there, Kevin?
I forget the name of the movie, but the Heatmeister, Island of Misfit Toys, Heatmeister.
Yeah, the Heatmeister. Yeah, there were a bunch of people dressed like what we perceive to be the Heatmeister as well. But big night for Lee, but not a big night for Joe Mantiply. And of course, that was it. I mean, even though the Diamondbacks did muster up some offense there in the top of the ninth, it felt like it was like screaming into a void at that point. Mantiply has just been bad all season long. And it's another outing where, again, he did not do his job. Obviously, the Diamondbacks were already down pretty significantly at that point. But, I mean, Jesse, I just – the question has to be asked. Are Mantiply's days with the Diamondbacks numbered, or do they not have another option? Is this down to the fact that without him, they won't have a left-hander? They don't really have a good option in AAA to call up and move into the bullpen, and really that's only going to leave them with Jalen Beeks. Is this a situation where no matter how bad Mantiply performs, the Diamondbacks might just continue to be stuck with him?
I'll start with the numbers on this one. Joe Mantiply, after another rough outing today, has been scored upon in 6 consecutive outings. He now has an ERA of 15.83 and 9 2/3 innings. He's given up 26 hits in those 9 2/3 innings. That's an opponent batting average of 481. I think we're at the point here, Derek, where, I can understand the Diamondbacks really wanting to see Joe Mantiply get right, because he did have a sub-4 ERA last season and was a valuable member of this bullpen, and this team really needs him. I mean, they really need the 2024 Joe Mantiply, but given the numbers that I just read off, I have to believe the Diamondbacks are at least thinking about making some sort of a decision here. Joe Mantiply, I do want to just say personally, one of my favorite people to talk to in the Diamondbacks clubhouse, all around just fantastic human being.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think there might come a point where where the numbers, are just so rough that it's hard to keep him around. And as far as who would replace him, which is a very important part of this question, as you brought up earlier, I do think they have some options. Kyle Ament down in AAA has an ERA of 1 and is an intriguing option for this team. They really wanted a lefty. Kyle Dbacks, I believe, has a sub-3 ERA down there as well with pretty good peripheral numbers. So, there's those two guys. There's Dre Jamison, of course, who's still down there as well. I do think they have some options if they wanted to go in that direction.
I kind of agree with you, and I know people are going to hate me for saying this, and I know there's already somebody that's going to say some negative comments about it, but I'm with you about Joe Mantiply as a person, and that's what kind of makes this stuff difficult. Like, we try as reporters, if that's what you want to loosely call me. We know Jesse's one of those, but we try to be impartial and just kind of view this through the performance, through the numbers, through what these guys do. But it's also hard when you go into the clubhouse and you get to know these guys. We've known Joe for a long time. We've had a chance to have him on the show. We've, chatted with him. Like Jesse said, he's also one of my favorite people to talk to as well. I remember after one of his outings, seeing Joe Mantiply more devastated than I think I've recently remembered seeing a player. Now, typically, if they're really having a rough night, they don't necessarily have to come out while the media is there in the clubhouse, right? They can kind of hide away and wait for us to leave, and then they can come be themselves in their locker, and they don't have to really worry about, us seeing them be emotional or feel feelings, right? But that's what I saw after Joe, after one of these performances, and I think the best way to describe it was he kind of looked like he was frustrated with himself and kind of lost a little bit there when it comes to like what exactly is going on. Like, a lot of times these guys will straight up tell you what wasn't working for them tonight. We know Gallen is an absolute pro at that. He'll tell you exactly what pitches were and weren't working. He'll, even on a good night, he'll tell you specifically what wasn't working. These guys approach it like this because it's their job day in and day out. Seeing Joe that upset over his performance this year and the way things have been going for him, lets me know and should let all of you know that there's not an amount of his heart not being in this. It's just a matter of sometimes this happens and we might be seeing that. Like, we might be seeing a guy that's losing his ability to pitch at a major league level and might not have his stuff anymore. I don't really know. It's just so weird when that happens, right? Because it can happen suddenly. It can be a gradual thing. I mean, with Joe Mantiply, didn't have a strong season last year, and I mean, we go back to the All-Star season, and I know we joke a lot about that, but really it was just a good first half, and after that All-Star nomination, he didn't really have a good, strong season after that. So, like, Mantiply's kind of been inconsistent, but he really hasn't been one of the Diamondbacks' best relievers since that nomination for an All-Star game. And at this point, yeah, like, I just don't know, Jesse. I mean, again, I don't know of the value of having a guy that can't be effective out there still in your bullpen just because he's a left-hander, right? And again, I know the Diamondbacks are limited on options. It just feels like we might be at that point where it might not just be about sending Joe Mantiply down to Reno. It might be about moving on from him as part of this team, which is I mean, it feels like the logical move at this point. Just doesn't feel great for those people that are fans of Joe.
Yeah, I mean, he does have options. Like they could option him. It's not like they would have to DFA him in order to send him down. But yeah, maybe they're asking big picture questions about whether, they foresee him being able to come back and contribute at the big league level down the road. I think something that makes
they need the depth, don't they? Not to cut you off, but like, I'm sorry, even if he's doing bad, like, I still need like the depth. And again, maybe there's things he can work out. Maybe Reno is the best place for him to do so. Again, it's really just about as much as a player can suck right now, Jesse, we know how all of a sudden certain factors can get them back on track. And again, I'm not suggesting that necessarily with what we've seen with Joe Mantiply that's in his future. It just feels like if he does have options left, as much as everybody in this chat right now wants to DFA him, I'm kind of agreeing with you there that might be the best option, at least considering that the Diamondbacks don't have many more options outside of that. So should who they turn to outside of Joe Mantiply not work, they can't keep calling up every single minor leaguer they have.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I would be curious what their perspective is on that. I think one thing that kind of hurts Joe Mantiply's case all the more in a game like this is that Jung Lee is a left-handed hitter. Mike Yastrzemski is a left-handed hitter. Like,
good point.
Great
point.
I think it's really hard to sell Joe Mantiply as like, oh well, he's a lefty. Yes, he is a lefty, but he's not really getting left-handed hitters out right now. And if that's the case, then if Kyle Ament is your first call up and you're swapping out a lefty for a righty, and that feels a little weird. I mean, maybe that's just kind of what you have to do given the pieces that you have to work with here.
Yep, I agree with you there, and a change definitely needs to be made. Might also need to be made here with Juan Morillo. Don't know, but again, Diamondbacks definitely had some offense today. We're going to talk about it on the other side of this break. Don't you go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Of course, a great place to take in a game like this is over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You can check out any one of their 4 wonderful locations here in the Valley. We were over at Wild Horse Pass for our latest edition of a watch along or watch party and doing a live show out there. Of course, we got a chance to check out that BetMGM Sportsbook out there at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, and it is the perfect place to take in all of this NBA playoff action, NHL playoff action, and of course, it's the best place to watch an Arizona Diamondbacks game. You can get down on the betting right there at the sports book. They also have massive screens, delicious food and drinks, and of course, all the action. So check it out. It's a great place for a staycation as well. You can dine in with their wonderful dining, and of course, check out their over 4,500 slots and table games down on their table or on their gaming floor. So you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. And if you live very far away from a Gila River Resorts and Casinos like I do, my friends call it South Anthem, make sure to stop by Circle K on your way there. I definitely need some sour gummy worms. I don't know why that's a particular craving I have. Mostly it's because Circle K has kept us in this office stocked with sour gummy worms, and right now we don't have any. I think the only bag we have is in Studio K as like a prop, and I'm doubtful that is within its expiration date, but I'm going to go pick up some sour gummy worms on my way home. Might as well get myself a frosty beverage. Of course, you should too. If you haven't joined the Inner Circle yet, you should do so for free. Join the Inner Circle by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions do apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. But when you do, you'll get yourself, of course, 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. You'll also get your first 5 Polar Pops for free. You'll save 3 cents off per gallon every day after that. And then in the app, you'll have all sorts of exclusive members-only discounts every single day for you to go get some treats at Circle K. And remember, do not sleep on the Circle K branded snacks. They might be the best snacks they have in the entire store. Jesse, I know you're familiar with our merchandise. Right now, we have our ALLCITY merchandise spring cleaning sale. There's 30% off all inventory, all of our stuff over there at the shop. And we even have up to 75% off already marked down sale items. I hate to disappoint you guys, but no, I still have the entire stock of Seth Cerveza shirts. Those you're going to have to contact me on my eBay store for. Those are very expensive. Those are limited edition shirts, but you can go over to our merch shop and get some wonderful, wonderful gear. And of course, like I said, up to 75% off. Right now is a great time to do so. Make sure if you're a diehard, get down on that. Great start to the game for the Snakes. Not a great ending to it, Jesse. They scored 3 runs early on. It looked like they kind of had Robbie Ray on the ropes and everything was going their way. And then the second inning happened, and beyond that, the offense goes quiet immediately. But it was a good start for this team. It just kind of fizzled out there. They did add some runs late. Corbin Carroll got that home run. And again, the vibes were good after the first inning.
They were, yeah. I mean, the Diamondbacks scored more runs in the first inning than they did all of Monday's game, right? It felt
That's true.
like, maybe Robbie Ray's had a good season and especially been really good lately, but it looked like the Diamondbacks had maybe figured him out there in the first inning, and then obviously he settled in after that point. Yeah, they had 3 batted balls over 100 miles an hour exit velocity in that first inning. I think it was 3 of the first 4 hitters in the game. And then the Diamondbacks had only 1 batted ball over 100 against Robbie Ray the rest of the game, that being, I believe, Jordan Lawlar's flyout somewhere in the middle innings. So, yeah, I mean, Robbie Ray has had, I mean, this is a different version of Robbie Ray than we saw toward the end of his Diamondbacks career. That's for sure. He is healthy once again and starting to look a little bit more like the guy who won the Cy Young with the Toronto Blue Jays not that long ago.
Why don't things ever work out for us, Jesse? Why don't we have nice things? But yeah,
he was good in 2017 for the Dbacks, Derek. He did,
yeah, I know.
You have that one really good season to cling to. So,
like you said, Gino doubled. He had an RBI double. I think the big concern for a lot of people right now is Ketel Marte. He had an 0 for 4 day. He struck out, had a big, I guess, botched opportunity with bases loaded late. And it just doesn't really feel like Ketel right now is the guy for this team. It doesn't feel like he's back. But he also he's had some big games here. It's not like to say he's completely been lost at the plate. It just feels like we're not really seeing Ketel at his best right now.
We're definitely not. Ketel is 6 for 35, I believe, since being reinstated from the injured list. Granted, yes, 3 of those 6 hits are home runs. They came in a span of 2 games against the Dodgers. At that point, it did feel like Ketel Marte was back. And then right now, we haven't seen him get a base hit in I think 4 games at this point. So, yeah, it's been a rough little stretch for him here. And I think it'd be one thing if Ketel was working quality at bats and just not getting the results, but the quality of the at bat has not been what you would hope for, especially in that 8th inning. You come up with the bases loaded and 1 out, a guy who's had trouble throwing strikes, and Ketel just swung at the first pitch, winds up grounding into an inning-ending double play that at the time kind of felt like it might have ended their hopes of really, at that point they had a decent chance to make a comeback. And obviously they weren't able to do that.
We do have to talk about Jordan Lawlar making his Diamondbacks 2025 Diamondbacks debut. Didn't have a great night. He did have a good defensive play early on that almost resulted in a nice double play being turned, but that was kind of, not to say the end of it, but like Lawlar showed his range defensively at times. Didn't have a great night at the plate. He went 0 for 3. He did walk, so he got on base, but he struck out. And yeah, I mean, not expecting a ton out of a kid making his debut, especially in a big game like this. There's a lot of pressure in an NL West matchup like this against the team that's just a few games ahead of you in the standings. But yeah, made a throwing error in the 7th inning on what seemed like a pretty routine throw to first. And yeah, I mean, again, I know a lot of people were excited for Jordan Lawlar. He's just still young and has going to have an adjustment period to playing Major League Baseball.
I'd never want to read too much into one game, of course, but yeah, it wasn't a great introduction for Jordan Lawlar. You mentioned the 1 walk that came against Camilo Doval in that 8th inning, and frankly, none of those pitches were really very close. It was a 4-pitch walk. It wasn't like he worked a quality at bat there necessarily. He just sort of stood there as Camilo Doval tried to find the strike zone. He did
swing, which was smart. He did the thing, but also
he did.
Yeah, he did. He didn't have a lot there that he had to do.
Credit where credit is due. Yes, he did not swing at any of the Camilo Doval fastballs that were, a foot off the plate or whatever. But he did get a middle. I think it was a changeup, might have been a slider. It was a secondary pitch from Robbie Ray in his second at bat of the game, and Lawlar gave it a ride. It was, I think, 103 off the bat. That was that one other batted ball of over 100 miles an hour in the later innings that I referred to earlier for the Diamondbacks, but he just got way too far underneath it. I think it was like a 47-degree launch angle. But that's the type of mistake pitch that, you'd love to do some damage on. Certainly you're not gonna hit 1,000 even on bad pitches. But that was certainly an opportunity that the Lawlar had to do some damage in this game. Other than that, yeah, nothing really stood out too much from his night.
I think I know 200 100-mile-per-hour exit velos you forgot, and one of them is Corbin Carroll's home run, which is his 14th of the year, Jesse. That is our Sanderson Ford deep drive of the game, and for good reason, because Corbin Carroll now shares the lead of in Major League Baseball. Just with a couple of guys named Aaron Judge and Kyle Schwarber, 14 home runs. MVP. That's a little premature, but I'll say it. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the power Corbin is showing. I'm amazed at the results of that change and that batting stance. I mean, earlier on, he was having some great results with a high batting average, but I think what I'm more impressed by right now is the fact that, like, it doesn't feel like Corbin's cooling off. He is definitely continuing to hit home runs. He now has 3 home runs in 2 games here against the Giants. And, again, how impressive has Corbin's power been this year?
Pretty wild. I mean, last I checked, you stand him up next to Aaron Judge and Kyle Schwarber, and he's just slightly smaller than both of them.
I don't know. And that's you might not have seen his forearms lately. You were here this weekend, Jesse. Did you check out the forearms? They were big. They're big. He looks muscular. But yeah, I mean, it's impressive, right? Like, I mean, again, we know the struggles he had with his swing plane last year and how flat his swing was. And we know that he made some drastic changes to his batting stance, some that I was a little worried just because it was such a drastic change. But I am no longer worried after seeing the results that he's had so far early this season.
It's been incredible. I mean, and it goes, but it's not just the month and a half that we've seen so far this year. This kind of goes back to July of last season when he really started to figure some things out. I believe Corbin has 34 home runs in his last 113 games, going back to July 7th of last year. Granted, that stat is kind of cherry picked, but that's still like
I don't care.
That's still 2/3 of a season where he had 34 home runs. So yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, yes, it is early to be talking MVP candidates, but I think he's probably been the most valuable player in the National League in the first month and a half of the season. He entered today leading the National League in Fangraphs wins above replacement. Fernando Tatis Jr. I know is like right behind him. But yeah, he's been unbelievable this season. And if the Diamondbacks can get to a place, Derek, where Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte are both clicking on all cylinders at the same time, I think that's where this offense could really reach another level. I don't think we've really seen that yet.
Yeah, you're right. And we haven't seen more than a couple of guys contributing. We know Josh Naylor, who hit that home run in the 9th inning. He's kind of consistently been doing it, maybe not showing the power we expected him to show, but still doing it consistently, still with a high batting average. Josh just goes out there and kind of takes what's given to him. And I mean, he does a good job of getting on base. We also know Geraldo Perdomo, when he's in the lineup, is always a danger, especially with runners in scoring position. And that's something the Diamondbacks have not been good at this season, Jesse. They've been terrible, and we're going to go over that. They weren't awful today. They were 4 for 7, which is kind of a surprise based on the way things felt during the course of this game. They just didn't have a ton of opportunities like they normally do. A lot of those scoring, those runners were from that first inning. But Corbin Carroll, of course, is our king snake tonight. 2 for 5 with a home run, 2 runs scored. Could have also been Tim Tawa, who had a 3 for 4 night. And again, Timmy did a good job there, played in center field. Something, Jesse, that I think just one day ago, we had a question about that. And I was like, I don't know about Tawa playing in center field. But, they brought it up on the broadcast. He played there quite a bit when he was in college at Stanford. Just not a lot of time while in the Diamondbacks organization. Still, had a fine night out there. Nothing crazy, just a good night at the plate for him, and continues to find ways to honestly still earn playing time.
I'm pretty amazed that the Diamondbacks asked him to do this, honestly. I mean,
I
it's
am
one
too.
thing to
I
to
just
play
said
center
yesterday, Jesse, I was
field.
like, there's not a chance of him being a corner outfielder. Well, I guess I was right because he ends up being center fielder. Like that, I was shocked that we saw the lineup today and that's who was in center field.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played some center field. I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before down in the minors. He has some professional experience, but I don't think he played there at all in spring training, and he hasn't played there at all in AAA this season. So it is a bit of a bold move on the part of the Diamondbacks, especially bold when you're talking about Oracle Park, which is about as spacious of a center field as you'll find around the league. But he made a couple nice plays. I mean, there was one ball that kind of brought him straight back right around to the warning track, and he got to the spot pretty quickly and made a nice catch. And I guess this is something the Diamondbacks are kind of embracing, with Alek Thomas, of course, starting against righties, and I guess Tim Tawa, now that Jordan Lawlar is on the roster, I guess Tim Tawa kind of becomes Thomas's platoon partner in center field, at least as part of his role.
Well, we have more from this game, even though most people probably don't want to see the numbers. We're going to take a look at the numbers. We're going to also take a look at an updated NL West standings. Don't you go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondbacks show. Of course, tonight was one of those games that Pure Edibles would make a great companion with tonight's game. After watching this bullpen, you need to maybe have your mood elevated, or maybe, just maybe, you just want to be put to sleep. And if that's the case, our friends over at Pure Edibles got you covered. Pure Edibles effects are clearly listed on each tin. That way you know exactly what effects to expect. Their gummies offer sleep support. They also have candies that have uplifting effects derived with unique cannabinoids that can help get over a loss like this. They're a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, kicks, which are their version of like Starburst, or like I've been saying, Now or Later's, one of my favorites. They also have soft chews that are like caramels, as well as hard candies. So check them out. They are created right here in Flagstaff, Arizona. Now they are made here in Phoenix, and they're designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable or easy to dial in your exact dose. Go find yourself some Pure Edible products from one of over 130 dispensaries across the state of Arizona. And speaking of Arizona, Desert Financial Credit Union is the place for you to bank if you are an Arizona sports fan. There's no better place, of course, where you can show off your team's spirit every time you make a purchase with exclusive debit cards branded with your favorite teams like the Arizona Cardinals, Arizona State University, and NAU, Northern Arizona University. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union. They got me started on my homeownership journey. Hopefully they can get you started on yours as well, or help you achieve your financial goals. That is what their financial experts are there to do. You can look to Desert Financial for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. When you open a free checking account online today, get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. And a big thanks to Desert Financial, as always, for taking care of our numbers. Here are our numbers from tonight's game. The Diamondbacks lose this one by a score of 10-6. They get out hit by the Giants 13-11. Diamondbacks were 4 for 7 with runners in scoring position to the Giants 2 for 11. Giants had 5 extra base hits to the Diamondbacks 3 extra base hits. And then expected batting average is pretty much a wash. 243 for the Diamondbacks, 259 for the Giants. Anything particularly stand out to you? Again, the Diamondbacks normally have 12, 13, 14 runners in scoring position and only convert 1. So, I mean, I guess 4 for 7 isn't a terrible night, but felt like their offense just really went silent after that first inning against Robbie Ray.
I think the difference in extra base hits was also pretty important, right? I mean, the Giants
home
had
runs?
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Giants had 3 home runs in the game, and you know, and to be fair to the Diamondbacks, all 3 were wall scrapers, so they just barely got over the fence, all 3 of them, but they were home runs nonetheless. And you know, Josh Naylor, of course, hit the home run late. Corbin Carroll also hit one in the 7th inning, but the Diamondbacks were, I don't want to say they were entirely out of the game at that point, but they had already fallen behind by a decent margin. The solo home run, the 2-run home run, you know, we're not going to do a whole lot to bring them closer in the game. So yeah, the Giants just came through with some really timely hits. Of course, the grand slam early in the game against Brandon Pfaadt stands out more than anything else, turning a 3-0 deficit into a 4-3 lead. That certainly was the hinge point for this game.
That was by rookie Christian Koss. That one, Jesse would have dinged in 18 out of 30 parks, including Chase Field. Meanwhile, Willy Adames' home run would have only been a home run in 11 out of 30 baseball parks. So, yeah, there were definitely the Jung Lee one was 24 out of 30. So that one was pretty much a wrap. Naylor's was 30 out of 30, and Corbin's was 28 out of 30. So at least when we hit home runs, we really hit home runs. But yeah, you're right. The Christian Koss grand slam, that felt like the big moment. I mean, that was probably the most important home run in this game, but the Diamondbacks do come back and score 6 runs. I tend to just mentally do this thing where if no matter how big the deficit was, if the Diamondbacks are able to overcome that deficit, then I don't really consider that to be a turning point as much, right? Like if the bullpen holds, theoretically the Diamondbacks win this game 6-4, right? But it really was the fact that this bullpen just let things get so out of hand, couldn't keep these home runs from going out of the ballpark late. And, now we sit here where the Diamondbacks once again lose another game that felt like they were more in than it, like the 10-6 score really doesn't feel like it does this game justice. But coming into play tonight, the Diamondbacks were tied with the Mets at a .226 batting average with runners in scoring position this season. Jesse, that's 25th in Major League Baseball. Being tied with the Mets, which is odd, but the Mets just hit like solo home runs and stuff like that, so they're fine. But it's kind of odd to be tied with the Mets considering how good the Mets season is. Those two teams are tied for the worst batting average with runners in scoring position of teams with a winning record. Meanwhile, the only teams that are worse than these two teams are the Pirates, White Sox, Rockies, and Orioles, essentially the worst teams in baseball. So it's kind of, when you look at the runners in scoring position production, big reason why the Diamondbacks are not in a better position this season for sure.
It's really stumbled over the past 2-3 weeks in particular. The Diamondbacks started out the year pretty well from a runners in scoring position standpoint. But yeah, the past few weeks, I think their batting average with runners in scoring position is below 200. And it really makes such a huge difference. Like, sometimes I pull up the runners in scoring position team stats, and it's so predictably, it's like, all right, all the really good teams are at the top, and all the teams who are underperforming or just are terrible are at the bottom, right? And it is odd to find the Mets, I guess, at the bottom of that list. Tells you a lot about all of the things they've done right this year. But yeah, I mean, you look at the top and you see a lot of teams like, the Detroit Tigers who've come out of nowhere and been really good. And the Padres have been really good with runners in scoring position. The teams who are really, you feel like maximizing the talent on their rosters. It's a huge part of whether you win or lose a baseball game is just whether your hits are meaningful or whether your hits actually didn't have much of an impact at all. The Diamondbacks have not been good in that regard for quite some time now.
This is sad, Jesse. Girth Jr. says, "This is why I'm done getting my hopes up on AZ sports teams. They always disappoint you and let you down." And what's wild about that is Girth Jr. isn't even born yet. Right? Like he still isn't born. So, I mean, I don't know. Like that's sad that he's not even born yet. He's already this disappointed with Arizona sports teams. I do appreciate Ryan. Ryan said something there in the chat. Maybe something similar to what I told Kevin. Ryan says, "Am I the only one terrified of the Rockies series coming up?" No, Ryan, you are not, because the Diamondbacks typically underestimate their opponents when they are weak opponents. And Kevin wanted to already gray out the Rockies on our NL West graphic. And I told him it's probably too soon for that, considering we have an upcoming series with them. Let's take a look at the updated standings for this terrible division. And by terrible, I mean very, very good. The Diamondbacks sit in fourth place still at 22-21. Giants now are at 25-18. Padres had a walk-off tonight. Fernando Tatis did his thing. They remain at 26-15. And I don't know where the Dodgers are in their game, but hopefully they can lose another baseball game. That would be great. That would be helpful. But yeah, again, like I said earlier, 13-game stretch against the NL West. Diamondbacks have one more game here with the Giants. Then they take on the Rockies, and then they take on the Dodgers again, Jesse. So not a great time for them not to be sharp, but I'm still fairly encouraged by 6 runs. Like 6 runs is enough to typically win the Diamondbacks a baseball game, I feel like. So I'm not panicking about the way the Diamondbacks were able to generate some runs there late or kind of make this one less of a laugher, but definitely have concerns about the bullpen. And, you know, Brandon Pfaadt, he's been good all season long. I know we've had our fun overreactionary conversations about him being a Cy Young winner or nominee this year, but it's just, again, even on a bad night, you don't really see Brandon Pfaadt completely fall apart. You just kind of get this. You get 3 or 4 runs, and that's what, again, a good pitcher is able to do is when they don't have their best stuff, they still don't implode like we've seen out of guys like Erod.
Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, like Brandon Pfaadt did keep the Diamondbacks in this game. Now, of course, the bullpen was not really able to do that, and I think asking for 5 scoreless innings or whatever like that's a pretty bold ask given the state of this bullpen right now. But yeah, to Brandon's credit, he did find a way to get some outs there. In the third and fourth inning, got out of a couple of jams. You just hope that for Brandon Pfaadt, he can find ways to really, I guess, limiting home runs is a big part of it, right? Something we've talked about with him for a long time. He has given up quite a few this season as well as in past years. For a while he'd been doing well and making sure that they were like solo home runs or 2-run shots. But then, of course, he gets tagged with a grand slam in this game. So I've been a little skeptical just looking at the underlying numbers with Brandon Pfaadt that every, the 3.28 ERA he had coming into today, it felt like there was maybe some regression that was going to happen. And, unless he was really able to kind of improve some of the underlying stuff. And obviously he was not able to do that in this game.
Well, we got Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound tomorrow. Jesse and people in the chat are not exactly thrilled about that. He will be going up against Jordan Hicks in the finale of this series, and then we still don't know how things will shape up in the Rocky series. But Jesse is a ball knower. You guys know that. That's why Jesse is here. And of course, we know you guys are ball knowers as well. So make sure you get down on the ball knower bonus, especially with the sale we have going on over with our merchandise. Right now, you can win a gift card to the PHNX merch store if you make your pick correctly for this upcoming series between the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. All you got to do is make a purchase of $25 or more. You pick Diamondbacks or Dodgers. You got to use the link, though. Make sure you use the link. It'll take you first before you make your purchase, and we'll ask you which team you're going to pick for that series. If you pick correctly, then you get a gift card to the merch store for the same amount as your original order. So again, the important thing there is that you must click in the chat or in our show notes to qualify for the gift card. And when you do, you'll get those 2 options. Make sure before you check out that you have selected your options for which team you want to win or not want to win. I guess, I know some of you are going to really be put at your odds there about which team to pick. So that's up to you on which direction you want to go with that. And of course, if you're right, you get that discount. So again, for all ball knowers, make your pick, then place an order. If you pick correctly, you're going to get a gift card from us for the same amount as your order. This is all on sale items are eligible for this promotion, so long as the total value of the order is $25 or more at checkout. So again, it does combine with our current sale going on. Jesse, I do want to talk about something other than the Diamondbacks. This chat probably wants us to preview that Eduardo Rodriguez, Jordan Hicks game. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. That makes my ulcer act up. But what I do want to talk about is the news today about Major League Baseball and Adam Silver there making an announcement about lifetime bans to players like Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, who have received lifetime bans but have passed away, are deceased, and are now having their lifetime ban lifted. The reason why I keep saying lifetime ban is because I typically felt like a lifetime ban is about that ban happening while you're alive, and then once that you've passed away, not necessarily saying you're going to be honored, right? Like I think that's the big thing. There's a lot of people who still oppose Pete Rose being in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people who are in favor of Pete Rose. The fact of the matter is Pete Rose was an incredible baseball player, and if outside circumstances didn't impact the decision here, it would be a no-brainer that Pete Rose would be in the Hall of Fame. It's just the fact that he broke rules and as a penalty for those rules had a lifetime ban against him. I do think that this is kind of silly that they needed to like make an actual assessment about this. Am I wrong? Like I feel like people would assume that, you know, players that have passed away can, again, not be honored, but have their story told in the Hall of Fame or in other Major League Baseball, you know, ways and of I guess honoring them. Like that's how people are going to see it. You're honoring Pete Rose, you're honoring Shoeless Joe Jackson, but these are people that you feel like did not deserve to be honored during their life. I don't know. I mean, it's weird to me. That person is never going to experience the satisfaction of being honored in the Hall of Fame or having that achievement. However, it's hard to exclude historically important people from telling the full tale of Major League Baseball.
I think the technical term is the permanently ineligible list. That's
Okay.
sort of the restriction that Pete Rose and company were under prior to this announcement.
Sure.
And yeah, I guess what's significant about this is that players who were on the permanently ineligible list because of a rule change, I believe, that happened in the 90s, those players were not even allowed to be considered for the Hall of Fame. They wouldn't even appear on the ballot. So because of that, Pete Rose up to this point has never been even a viable option for people to try to vote him into the Hall of Fame. And now that that label is gone, he theoretically would become eligible. And I think, I don't know nearly as much about the Hall of Fame and the inner workings as some people, but I think there's probably a pretty good chance that happens eventually. This is a guy who is the all-time hits leader in Major League Baseball, right? It's 4,000 something. It's absurd. I think there's a pretty good chance that he gets honored in that way eventually. But yeah, this has certainly been a controversial case in baseball for a long time, and it does feel a little weird that if he does get elected to the Hall of Fame, you know, Major League Baseball prevented it from happening until after he had already passed away.
Well, overall, I just think that again, there has to be a line drawn at times, right? And some of the things that Pete Rose did, not just the gambling, and it's being discussed in the chat. I don't feel like I need to go into it, but like there are sometimes people that were a baseball player that are a terrible person, and those people don't necessarily deserve to be honored at all. And that's where I kind of am conflicted, right? Because again, I'm as I said earlier, I'm a big person that believes in the entire story being told. But also I think that I feel like you can kind of put someone in the Hall of Fame and dunk on them, right? Like what is so wrong with saying someone was a really good baseball player and then adding an addendum to it that's like, but they were a trash person and here's why. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of it. I just think that like this is like a lot of things in history where what actually happened is important for people to know. And people, it's like with time, the story of Pete Rose's terrible behavior erodes away, and then it just becomes about how good of a baseball player he was again. Those two things need to live hand in hand. It's kind of like what we've said about Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling's just had awful takes. He's not, I don't know if Curt Schilling's ever done anything that really is as bad as some of the transgressions that Pete Rose has done, right? Like, but Curt Schilling is one of those guys that nobody wants to see in the Hall of Fame, and that's just because his mouth put him in that, you know, situation. There's a lot of reasons why people will deem that a player isn't worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. I do think that there needs to be some sort of middle ground where we're not honoring them, but we're not excluding their story from the overall story of Major League Baseball, especially when they were as important to the game at one point as Pete Rose was. But he also sucks. Yes, and Ty Cobb is in the Hall of Fame, and he also sucked. There's a lot of people that sucks. There's bad people everywhere all the time. Jesse is one of the wholesome, nicest people I've ever met in my life. I'm amazed about how much he puts up with me, let alone some of just the terrible behavior of people, right? But like, again, this is sometimes about baseball and not necessarily about like human behavior, right? Like, so again, it's hard to say a guy broke records and did things and not have them be a part of your museum about baseball, important things that happen. That was a really dumb way to call the Hall of Fame, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's what it is. It's a museum of important things that have happened in this game. And like, you're like, nah, this guy sucks as a person, so we're not going to talk about him in here at all, you know?
I fully agree with just the way that you're framing it, of like telling the player's story. I think that's one way of thinking about the Hall of Fame that has always really resonated with me. Like, can we tell the story of baseball without Barry Bonds? You know, and like, I don't really think you can.
Right.
Can you tell the story of baseball without you know, Pete Rose? And yes, there are, you know, some. I won't dive too deep into his past, but yes, there have been some things that have happened.
Look it
stories
up. You go look it up. Google it. You'll find all of them. We're not going to list them here, but
yes,
you'll find it.
Yes, those things do exist. But yeah, I think just in general, I am pretty uncomfortable with people voting on the Hall of Fame, kind of becoming the moral arbiters who decide who's good enough to get in and who isn't. Because as you said, there are already people, you know, like if we were to, you know, really dive deep into the story of every single person who's already in the Hall of Fame, I bet we'd find a story or two where it's like, maybe this guy doesn't pass
spend a lot of time cleaning
clause.
some things up.
Yeah. So that's more of a personal take where I think I'm generally more accepting of those situations. But yeah, it feels like there should be a way for us to acknowledge how unbelievable Pete Rose was on the field and honor him for that without necessarily praising the you know, some of the things that he did and the choices he made along the way.
All right, well, we have some super chats to get to here, Jesse, and I want to thank M for all of their super chats because there's quite a few. Where do we even start, Kevin? Let's just get to it.
From the top.
M says, this team is just what it is, mediocre. Coincidental that your name is also M for mediocre. You're not wrong. He said, Brandon didn't have it, but the ump screwing him in the first at bat didn't help him settle down. Yeah, there wasn't a great strike zone tonight from the ump, and I will definitely agree with that. That just didn't seem to be like an exclusive thing to the Diamondback side of things either.
Yeah, I think what they're referring to there is Mike Yastrzemski, the leadoff hitter for the Giants. It sure looked like he swung on a 3-2 pitch there in the first inning, and
that was the third base
home plate umpire did not agree with that. So that's fair. I mean, Brandon Pfaadt didn't wind up giving up a run in the first inning, but it did run up his pitch count a little bit. Maybe he would have been able to get in a better rhythm if that hadn't happened.
M's paying for dinner tonight. M says, just demoralizing that almost every single year our bullpen is like this. Offense inconsistent too. Very true. But again, offense did enough tonight if the bullpen was somehow able to hold this Giants team to just what Brandon Pfaadt gave up. M says Hazen needs to be ripped apart with his continuous failures as an organization. Develop pitching on the positive side. I love Tawa, and he plays better center field than Jake already. Well, it's a small sample size, so we'll stay cautiously optimistic about that. And then one more, he said, we thank Joe for his service. None of us says he's a bad person, but this is a business. He could stay around the team and stay around the team when he retires. Okay, we're already moving on from that. What else we got, Kevin? Do we got other M filled our super chat up. By the way, we're going over to overtime, and you can thank M for that. So if you're watching right now on any of the television services that we offer, make sure to go to gophnx.com. and do so now, and you'll get some more from M. M's complaining that the Ketel 8th inning at bat was so bad. It's so annoying. Yeah. Again, that's kind of goes to some of Ketel's early quick swings there. Not really taking good at bats, not seeing a lot of pitches. That's not great. We'll get back to M. What else we got? Benjamin Hunley says, if playing both right, you click away, Kevin, and I'm reading it on the right side, and I can't read it.
I'm thinking you're reading it on the screen.
I'm just going to complain. You read it. You read it. I'm done.
Benjamin Hunley, $5. We appreciate you. If playing both right and center field was too much for Carroll, then how will Lawlar handle playing third, shortstop, and second?
That's a good question. I don't know. Jesse, what is your assessment of that? Is Corbin Carroll not good to play center field, or what do you think about his ability to play center field?
I think he can play center field. The defensive metrics definitely like him in a corner more. But for Corbin, it's a little different because he's been in the big leagues for a while now, and the Diamondbacks just really wanted to give him some stability that he hasn't really had. They've had to use him at center every now and then the past couple of seasons. I think they really want to avoid that this year. Jordan Lawlar, it's a bit of a different scenario because he just got up here to the big leagues. I think the fact that he can play multiple positions is a very big part of them being comfortable bringing him up here. But I imagine with Jordan Lawlar in the long run, they feel the same way as Corbin, where they're going to want to find him one position. I don't think this super utility thing is where they want Jordan Lawlar for the long haul.
Chris says, quit sniping at Kevin. Kevin's making sudden and abrupt movements while I'm in the middle of reading. This is not my fault. This one's on Kevin, and I needed to let people know. I needed to expose him.
Peek behind the curtain. When I'm in Derek's seat, I'm always reading the chat off of the screen if there's the chat on the screen. So I was being assumptuous, and you know what they say about assuming.
Yeah, we know about that. We got another one from Benjamin Hunley. This is another good question or good point. He says, I think the A squad bullpen is serviceable. The problem is when the Dbacks have to use the B squad, they can't hold the deficit where it is. It honestly, it's the fact that there's a B squad, right, Jesse? Like, I know that there are players. I know there's pitchers that Torey deems he's going to use them in high leverage situations and guys that he's going to use at other times, essentially, right? Like, there's going to be holes that need to be filled, bad outings from starting pitchers that just kind of need someone to go out there and take up some space, no matter how badly they do. They're just mopping up. They're just, eating some innings. But again, tonight was one of those nights where it like the throwing guys out there to eat innings really came back to bite them, considering that those guys blew this game wide open. And I don't know. I mean, it does feel like there could be a little bit managing of the bullpen a little bit better so that you're not just left with certain guys on certain nights. I think that's the situation that Torey's managed himself into entirely too many times this year.
I think there have been moments where you could totally question Torey's bullpen management. We've talked about some of them over on our Dbacks show, Snakes Territory, but I feel like I'm kind of done having those conversations for right now, unless there's something like super obvious and egregious, just because who is in the circle of trust at this point? I mean, it's Shelby Miller and I guess Jalen Beeks, even though honestly, both of those guys have needed to throw kind of a lot of pitches in most of their recent outings. Granted, Shelby's 9th inning was very clean last night. But really, I wouldn't say any of the guys in the bullpen have looked all that sharp lately. Ryan Thompson has struggled. Kevin Ginkel has certainly struggled. His velocity's down a couple ticks. I think Torey is just in a really tough spot right now where none of these guys are really pitching all that well, except for maybe a couple. And so, I mean, it's a valid question. Like, there is a pretty big difference between that A group and B group. But again, also the A group, I don't think is very large at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. It pretty much is Shelby Miller and Jalen Beeks at this point. A couple of people make points about Corbin Carroll's home runs. Zach Gonzalez says, solo Carroll home runs are killing us. Put him in the 3-hole. I mean, I don't know. Maybe with his power, that's not a terrible idea. M also says Corbin solo homers. He never homers when anyone is on base. I'm like, couldn't you have done that earlier? Trust me, we would love him to do it with runners in scoring position. He does says Corbin's an MVP candidate on a team of disappointment. Story of the backs. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still think that some guys are doing a good job this year. I don't know if that's the case. There's some other complaints. M also wants to trade Gallen, and then he says this team is so unclutch. Not surprised. I will say that I watched a basketball game tonight between two very clutch teams, Jesse. It was the Nuggets and the Thunder, and that game was incredible. And it made me realize that I haven't watched my own basketball team be clutch in a very long time. So I'm missing clutch performances from teams I root for. Transonic, last but not least, says we've established Derek is the heat miser and Jesse is the cold miser. Well, yeah, actually that kind of works for us. But we appreciate you guys so much for your super chats. You guys are the best. Diamondbacks have another game tomorrow against the Giants. We will be back with another post-game show. Of course, make sure to follow Jesse on Twitter. You can get him at Jesse and Friedman. You can get his show at Snakes Territory. Make sure to check that out on YouTube as well, with the one and only Jack Summers, who I adore. Jack fixed my Jack fixed my heartburn issues that I had. So not only is he a good baseball ball knower, but he also knows a thing or two about medicine. So shout out to Jack for that. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Cap_caveman with a K. Our guy Kevin is at Kevo Posts. Our show is at PHNX_Dbacks. But of course, as always, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You got anything, Kevin, before we get out of here?
I don't think so. Oh, wait. I do have one question. I know the answer already, but it's worth the exercise. Jesse, have you seen Sinners? It's been a couple weeks.
Kevin doesn't know you, Jesse.
Is that a serious question? Are
It's
you
crazy.
asking
it
if
was
I
like I said, I knew the answer, but closed mouths don't get fed.
Oh.
And what if he had?
You're asking
my mind
if
would
I've
have been
seen a
blown.
movie
If Jesse
that's
would
been
have
out
said
for
yes to
2
that
weeks?
question, that would have been the most shocking thing that happened
I gave Jesse
to me
a
this
chance
entire day.
to turn my frown upside down, and it just didn't happen. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, I could have answered that for him. But Jesse, a pleasure as always. Great to see you, and we will see you next time. Of course, again, make sure to check out everything Jesse does. Make sure to follow us, and of course, most importantly, behave yourselves. Have yourselves a wonderful night. We'll be back tomorrow with another post-game show. When I say behave yourselves, I mean those of you in the Discord, you know who I'm talking to. Don't make me come in there and bonk you guys again. I'm glad Jesse doesn't have to see some of the things you guys are saying in there, because he would turn a different shade of red. That's for sure. But again, thank you guys for your time. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when your bullpen can figure it out.
We all silly like the mayor.